Hi guys, welcome back. So this is the continuation of the previous tutorial on creating registration form with Python. So previously I showed you how to create this GUI for registration of your personal information. So after all of this data has been registered on the database, you can then use that some of the registered data to gain access to this, to bypass the system in order to gain access to maybe a management system. Okay, so you have to ensure that all of your information are being registered here. So let's try that again before we go on to the next one. So I showed you how to create this GUI, and then you input all of your data. Let's say the first name is Jenny and the second name is Kendra. Okay, and then her email is going to be, let's say, Kendra at gmail.com. And Kendra is a female. She is an Egyptian. Just her username is going to be Candy. Okay, and I'm just going to give her a password and say Kenny and Kenny. Okay, so I also show you how to make use of these checkboxes and how to create them as well. So this is for hiding your password away from viewers. Okay, so after all of these are true, after you have imputed all of your information, you just submit this to the database, and then you get the message that this was a successful registration, and then you just say okay to that, and then the system comes up. So what you do is to try to remember the name of the email and the password that have been registered in the database. So what you do is just simply put in the email. So I use Kenny at gmail.com, and her password is Kenny. Okay, and then we're just going to log in. Okay, so this is a successful login. This login was successful, and after that is done, you can now gain access to the management system, because this is the stage that you need to bypass in order to gain access to the system. So now after that is done, you just simply click OK and the management system pops up. Let's do this. You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, so now we are here in the management system. Okay, so that is just basically what we're going to do today. So this is what we are going to build today. So I'm going to show you how to build this GUI to gain access to the real management system. So I'm going to show you how to create this entry fields, the labels, the buttons, this checkbox as well. So I've shown you how to do that from the previous video, but since it's still on this GUI, we'll have to do it all over again. And for the second one, after we have created this GUI, the next one is going to be our forgot password, but that is going to be for the next stage. But for today, we're going to handle this GUI. All right, so without any further ado, let's get started. So there's something that I need to mention. Okay, so I'm going to post some links to my previous video on how to guide you on how to um, convert these images from JPEG to PNG, because these are PNG formats. Okay, so in order to get this logo as little as it is like this, you need to convert. Maybe you have a JPEG. JPEG is high for this format, so you need to convert it from JPEG to PNG format in order to get these logos here. So I'll be posting the video down below. You're going to see the link there. Same thing goes with how to download and install MySQL, because that's basically what we're going to be using today as well. We used it previously in our other video. And then I'm going to post another link on how to install a pillow. Basically, the pillow enables you to attach images to your GUI. So without that pillow being installed in your PyCharm, you won't be able to insert images. So that will be inserted as well. Okay, so without any further ado, like I said, let's get started. And please do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Please, and do not forget to share my videos with your friends who are interested in learning Python. Alright, so let's start. Okay, so let's get started. So this was the previous codes from the other GUI. Okay, for the personal registration form. So for today, we're just going to create a login screen. All right, so let's start with that. So I'm just going to add a new file to this project, and I'm going to call it login underscore screen. Okay, or login page, whatever you want to call it, and I'm just going to hit enter. So now let's start by creating our GUI from scratch. So, we'll always have to import from Tkinter. So we import all of Tkinter's module because that's what we're going to be making use of. Okay. And then I'm going to start by creating my window. I'm going to call this Windows. All right. So then I'm just going to call the name of my Windows, and it's going to be in TK form. So this is TK module we're making use of. And then Windows the title. Okay, so there's not much difference with this and the other one we did the other time. So let me call this login screen rather than using my name. All right, and the next we're going to do is to resize our window. Okay, so resizable, and I'm just going to pass a argument 0, 0. So this is basically going to disable our maximize button. So however the size of the window I give is going to be the default format for it, right? So now is to create the size for our window. So basically, before we do that, we will have to run this Windows. Okay, so let me show you how to give a size to your window. So I'm just simply going to call windows.geometry, use this widget to give this actual size to your window. So for mine, I use 490 for the width, and for the height, I'm going to use 240. And then from the x-axis is 200, and then from the y-axis is going to be 200 as well. Okay, so let's run this, but before we do that, we'll have to ensure we use our main loop. So this is basically going to give us a continuous rundown of the windows. So without this, your window is not going to continuously run for you to view what you have to view on the screen. Okay, so let me run this. All right, so there it is. So we have gotten the actual size, just same as this. Okay, so you can see our width, this is our width, and this is our height. And from the x-axis, you can see the distance from the x-axis, and from the y-axis, we have this distance as well. So basically, I just gave it those figures so that my window can just simply pop up at the middle of the screen. So that is why I just gave them the 200 and the 200 over here. All right, so for the next stage, we're going to start with creating our frame. All right, so let me run this again and just put this over here. Now you can see from this previous GUI, this is our frame. The background is our frame. So that is what I'm going to do over here right now. Okay. Okay, so Next is just going to give this a comment. Okay, so it'll be easier understood. And then we're going to call, I'm just going to give it a variable name. We're going to say frame is going to be a frame actually. And this frame is going to be in our windows. And we're going to give it a width of 700. And for the height is going to be 400. And then for the background is going to be black, just like how we saw the previous one. Now it's time to place this frame on the screen. So without using a place widget, you won't be able to view what you want to put on the screen. So ensure to always use your place or row or grid rather. So for this purpose, I'm going to be making use of the place widget. So I'm going to call the name of the frame dot place, and I give it the actual place that I want it to be. So for this purpose, I'm going to simply use y and x axis 0. The reason is because I do not have an actual figure to give the screen. I want the background to cover every angle of the screen. That is why I gave it a 0. So this is just a default value for basically covering up the whole screen. All right, so let me show you. Yeah, you can see that. But if I do it this way, if I give an actual figure to this, let's say 10, and then I run this, you can see from here we're having an open space over here. So in order to avoid that, you just simply leave this on a default value of 0, and this is just going to cover up the whole screen. So however the size of a window is, just give it a default value of 0 and it knows exactly what to do. All right, so now for the next stage is to start with our logo. Okay, so while I'm going to work on this image, before I do that, I have to ensure that I import pillow from Tkinter. Okay, I have to import pillow module. So basically this pillow, the short is pill. Okay, so I'm going to just say from pill in caps, from pill import image and image. Okay, so basically this module enables you to insert videos on your GUI. So I've placed a link to show you on how to install this pillow in order for you to be able to use pictures of your choice on the platform. Okay, so after that is done, I'm going to start by starting to insert my images. So before that, I will have to create a variable holder, a variable to hold this image, and that's what I'm going to work with. So for here, I'm just going to say file, and then I'm going to simply impute the file. I have downloaded my file and converted them already to PNG. Like I said, this is PNG format, so I'm going to be working with PNG. So I have downloaded that already, and this is it. And if you look over here, what I'm working with is this one, and this is the logo that I have here. So I'm just simply going to copy that, and before I do that, I have to ensure that I paste this on this screen, on this project. And after that is done, I'm going to copy it from here, and then I'm just going to place it over here. Okay, all right, so after that is done, the next stage is to start with my email label, okay, which is this label. Okay, so that I can attach the image next to the email label, right? So I'm going to call this email label. Okay, and it's going to be a label, and this label is going to be in my frame. It's going to be my frame, and the text that I want on this label is going to be an email. Okay, and then for the font ground of this email is just simply going to be this color code. Okay, so I'm just going to make use of this color code. I'm just going to say hash 97 triple F. I think so. That should be 4 Fs. Now, okay, let's see that. This arrow will work on that. And then for the image here, we're just going to call the name of the logo of this variable that is holding this value over here. So I'm just simply going to use this variable name over here for the image. So this is logo image. Okay, and the next is going to be to use a compound. So this is just going to help me to place it beside the label. Okay, so I'm going to say compound, and this is going to be on the left hand side. Okay, as you can see over here, we have it here. So that's just how I want it to be. And then the background is just simply going to be, well, yes, we'll be using black, so we're going to maintain black. And then for the font ground, for the font style, actually, so this is going to be a caliber. Okay, I love using that. And then for the size, it's going to be 14, and then this is going to be bold. Right, so let me get this out of here so we can see it clearly. All right, so that is done. We need to place this somewhere. Okay, so since our logo has been attached to our email, we can now work with our email label. So now our email label needs to be placed somewhere on the window. So I'm just going to call email label dot. I'm going to use grid this time. I'm going to say to grid, and then I'm going to give it a row. The row is going to be 1, and for the column it's going to be sorry, I'm going to be here, so this is going to be 0, and then I'm going to give y, and then this is just going to be 20, and then the pad x is going to be 3. All right, so that is it for this. So let me run this so we can see this on the screen. Okay, so here we are, but no worries, all of this are going to be done later. Okay, so for the next stage, we're going to work on okay, so we're going to work on the password image. Okay, so I'm going to call this password image. Okay, then we're going to have to put our photo image to get the file of this. Okay, you know how we did this the other time. So I've downloaded that. I'm just simply going to copy this image and copy this, take this out, paste it over here. Okay to that. And where is it? Okay, there it is. And then I'm going to copy this and just simply paste it here. So that is our file. And now I'm going to work on my password label. And this is going to be a label. And it's going to be a frame. And image is going to be the name of the variable holding this value. Okay, and the name is password image, and the compound is going to still be left, and then we're going to have the font ground for this. This is just we're going to use the color code. Okay, all right, so there is no, okay, so our color code is going to be a hash. Simply going to use from the previous one, 9FFF. Okay, that's about 4 Fs. And then the background is just going to be black. And then the text we would want on that is just going to be password. Okay, and then what else do we have? We have to use the font style for this. Okay, so let me just copy this here, copy this, and paste it over here. All right, so that is it. Let me put this here so we can see this. Okay, so that is so now in order to place this on the screen, I'm just going to simply say password, use the label because the image is already inserted in our password label. So now we have to work with our password label. And then I'm going to say grid, and I say row, going to be 3, and column is going to be 0, and then we're going to give it some padding. So this padding is just basically spacing them from the x-axis and the y-axis. That's just what this is about. And then I have my pad x. It's going to be 3. Okay. All right. So that is basically for our label. Now to work on our entry fields. Okay, so let me pour this label. So the next thing we're going to work on is our entry fields. Okay, for this entry fields. And we're going to start with our email as well. And say email entry is an entry, and it's going to be my frame, and this is the width. My width is going to be, give it a 39, and the border is going to be 3. All right, so I don't think I have much for this entry field. So for this same email entry field, I'm going to place it somewhere in a grid and say it should be placed in row 1. And in my column axis is going to be 2. Okay, so I'm going to just give it a column span of 2. And then for pad x is going to be 57. Okay, so for the column span, it's just that I'm basically occupying a multiple space. That's what my column span is about. But for my column is just a particular space. But for column span is occupying multiple spaces. So that's the difference between column and column span, particular and multiple spaces. So that's just the easy way I could explain this. I don't want to start going into much details. All right, so now for my password entry. So so we all know this is an entry, and then this entry is going to be my frame, and width for this is going to be 39 as well, and the border is going to be 3. All right, so now our password entry needs to be fixed somewhere. This is the grid where we're going to give it a row to be 3, row 3, and my column is going to be column 2. And for the column span, it's going to take about 2 spaces. Okay, so let me run this and let's see how this is going to look like. All right, so we're getting there. So the more things we put in, our background is just going to keep, our frame is just going to keep expanding until it occupies the whole of the screen. Don't worry about that. We're going to get there. Just sit and relax. Okay, so for the next stage is to work on our login button. Okay, so this is our login button over here. Okay, let's see. We've done this. All right, so let's work on our check. Huh? All right, no, all right, let's just work on our login. Let's work on all the buttons first. Get to the other stage. All right, so next is our login button. So I'm just going to give it a variable name and say login btn, just short for button. So we know this is a button, and it's going to be in our frame, and the text for this is going to be login. Okay, that's what's going to be on the button. And our background, we know that is get this code, but this is a whole different code, color code. Okay, so this is 7F, 7FF. So this is just going to be 3Fs here. And then for pad Y, like I said, this is just spaces, just giving spacing from the other buttons or labels. So that's how I just gonna space this. And then for our width, I think because why I'm using this pad Y is because of our grid. Whenever you are using this grid widget, you have to make use of rows and columns. So this is where our pad Y and pad X comes in. So if you're using place, you're just simply going to use give it an actual figure using place. So I think with that is quite easier. But because of the little screen, I just decided to use grid and give it some spacing over myself. But don't worry, it's not an issue. You still have preference. All right. So I'm going to the next is my width, and the width is 23. And then for my foreground, it's going to be white. Okay, that's the text on the login button. I want the text to be white so you can see it visibly. And then I'm going to work on my font style. So my font style, this is going to be here, and as usual, I love to use some. Okay, for this purpose, I'm just going to work with an open. Let's see here. I'm going to make use of this open sans. Okay, and then the size of the text is going to be 9 and is going to be bold. All right, because it's a button, we want to tell the user that it is a button, is something you can click on. So this is where we're going to use our cursor. Okay, so our cursor, let me bring this out here. So our cursor is going to be, okay, I think there's a mistake here. This is not, I closed the bracket, but my work isn't done yet. So I'll have to go back here and include my cursor because it's a continuation. All right, so now I'm going to say cursor is going to be the hand. Okay, I said that. That was a mistake. And this is going to be a hand too. All right. Okay. Sorry, excuse me that. And then I'm going to work on our border. So for my border, I'm just going to give that a 0. Okay, so I have to use a 0 because I do not want any excessive additional border to what I'm doing. So I have to give it the default value of 0. And then for my width, border width, this is where I'm going to specify a number, and that is 5. Okay, so that is it for that. Okay, I'm sorry, 5. And that is it for that. Okay, so now we should place this somewhere. I'm going to say password, entry. Sorry, this is login. I'm supposed to give some space here. Okay, so this is my login button dot grid, and then I'm going to say give it row 9. And for the column span, this is just going to occupy a space of 5. Okay, since it's a button, it has to be large. Okay, well, that depends on you, but this is just mine. All right, so now this is just it. Let me run this and see how it looks like. All right, so we're getting there. Okay, so like I said, the more you space this thing out, the more it's going to be. Okay, so this is in caps. I have to put that in caps. All right, so caps. Let me see here. I'm going to say log in. Let's run this again and see how it looks like. All right, I guess we're on track now. Let's see. I hope it's exact. All right, so it's on point. we're getting there. So like I said, the more things you put on the frame, the more it expands. So now we have covered the whole screen. So for the next thing we're going to be working on is these are don't have an account. Okay, so this is just a label. All right. Okay, I think I did something here. So this is just going to go away. Okay, so that is it. For the next is going to be that don't have an account. So let's start with that. Have enough space. All right. So for the next is don't have account label, right? Just trying to make this easier to understand. And we call this a label. Okay, this is going to be my frame, is a text, obviously. And the text is going to be don't have an account. That's a question. Okay, so we are having an error here because of this our hiding over here, this over here. So in Python, you have to use an escape value. So we have to escape this in order for this to work. To be shown, we're just going to use our escape. So this is just our /. You can use to escape this. I'm going to start a previous video on how to work on our escape characters. So this is just an escape character. For search purpose, you have to use it. Okay, so that is just how this works. Okay, so for the next is going to be our font bound. And for the color is going to be this. We're going to have 9 and we're going to have 7 F F F F. This is just 4 Fs. And then for our background is going to be a black color. Okay, we have to just maintain our black. And then for pad Y, space is going to be 4. We're going to work on our font style. And then for font style is going to be, I think I use Caliber. Okay, that looks like Harrington style. Okay, so we're going to use Harrington 9 and it's going to be bold just for confirmation. Let me see that. Yeah, that's Harrington format. Harrington font style. Okay, so yes, so we are there, getting there now. So that's what we have here. So now is to place this somewhere on our screen. I'm going to say don't have account dot place. Now I'm using place because I do not want to scatter all of the other things that I put there. The place will make it easier for you to attach a variable or value in a particular place in on the GUI. It's quite easier to use a place than the grid. The reason why I had to use the grid is because I want to make use of our pad Y and our pad X. Okay, so for this purpose, I do not have to make use of our pad Y or pad X or any of that. I just want to fix it somewhere around from the 0 axis or X axis and all of that. So that's why I have to use my Y or X. Okay, so for this purpose, I do not have to use an X because not including an X means that our label is going to get a default value of 0, which is starting from the end of the screen. Okay, so you can see here it just started from the beginning here, so I do not have to include that. But well, let's when you still play with that, I'm just going to say X is going to 0 and Y I'm just going to call it instead. All right, so let's run this and I'm just going to show you. Okay, so you can see there's a little space here. All right, well, it's still the same thing though, but you can decide to still take it out. All right, I just don't even bother including it. Okay, so this is where we are. All right, so I'm taking this out, and for the next is going to be our create new account. Okay, so this is it. It's a button. So we're going to create new account here. If you don't have an account, you create one. Okay, so now it's going to be, I'm going to call it create new account. And this is going to be a button. And the button is going to be in a frame. And the width for this is going to be 15. And the text is just going to call it create one. I don't have much space there, else I would have said create new account, but there isn't much space, so I'm just going to leave it on create one. Whenever you're doing yours, you can expand your screen and give more room for more details. All right, so text, and then I have a text, and then I'm going to give it a border. So this is just basically not for any additional default values. Okay, and then I'm going to now include my no, I don't need a border width for this. I'm just going to give a background for that. It's going to be white. And after that, since it's a button, you have to include a cursor because to indicate to a user that that button is to be clicked. And then the font ground is going to be black. Okay, and then we're going to have our font style. Font style is going to be my, I don't know why I'm so used to this. So I'm going to call this one a Tahoma. Tahoma. And this is going to be size 8 and it's going to be bold. Okay, so let me get this out of here. So this has to be placed somewhere. Okay, so I'm going to say create new account dot place. Okay, this is going to be from the x-axis. We're going to have 10, and for our y-axis, it's going to be 199. Okay, let me run this, see how this looks like. All right, so we'll get in there. All right, so we still have to include our checkbox and forgot password. Okay, so so now we're going to start with our forgot password. So that is a button. So we all know that this forgot button, this is a button. You can see the cursor is showing here. So this simply takes us to this page. If you forgot your password, this is how it's going to be. Okay, all right, so let's just include that. So this is going to be a button. All right, so for the next is going to be our forgot password. Let me get this out. And then I'm going to say forgot PW, so forgot password. And then this is a button. All right, so the button is going to be a frame, and there's a text that is going to go with, say, forgot password question, right? That's a question. And then our font ground is still going to maintain the same thing with our color code of 7FFF. That's 4 Fs. And then we're going to have a border. Let's just give it the board value of 0. And a cursor is going to be a hand 2. Okay. And then we are going to have a background, which is going to be black as usual. And then for our font style, okay, for our font style, this is it. And no, this is how this should be. So I'm going to use a Harrington, as I did for the previous one. So let me get this here. So I'm going to say Harrington. So the size that I want for that is going to be 9, and this is definitely bold. All right, so let us place this somewhere. So I'm going to say forgot password. Okay, I'm just going to say place it somewhere around here. And for my x-axis is going to be our 310. And then for my y-axis, it's going to be 120. Okay, so let me see, let me run that. All right, so we've basically put everything on the screen. Okay, so the next we're going to do is to attach our check button over here, checkbox code. All right, so let's do that now. This is going to be, give this a comment and say check button. Or you can just say a box, just a box you tick on. And I'm going to just give it a name check. So this is just a variable holder, or a value holder rather, sorry. And then is a check button, okay? And then this is going to be in our frame. And the text, we do not need a text on it. We just want it to be plain. I do not need to write anything specifically on it. And then, okay, so I'm going to give this a command. Okay, I'm going to give this a, okay, no, not yet. So let me just get this out, but that is going to come in later. And then I'm going to just give it a background of black. So after that is done, I'm going to call it and place it somewhere close to the entry field that is needed, which is going to be beside our password entry. So from the x-axis on our password entry, we will be making use of the value 440. And then from the y-axis, it's just going to be 100. Let me run this. Okay, so we have it here. Okay, so this needs to go up a little. So we need to work on our y-axis. So y-axis needs to go up a little. Where is it? Let's see. Let me give this a 90 and run this. Let's give this a 95 and I'll run this. All right, so there it is. That is done. Okay, so that is all for our GUI. So we have created our window, we have created our GUI, all of that is done. So the next thing we're going to do is to work on our check buttons. So basically we'll have to configure our check button to ensure that the input here is going to be hidden. Okay, all right, so let us start. Okay, so let's start with configuring our check button. Okay, all right, so so what we have to do, we have to go over here and include a command and say command what am I going to say? Okay, I'm just going to say show. Okay, so I'm going to say command show. So after that is done, I'll have to go and define this. So this is basically giving a function to this, what I want this check button to do for me. So I'm just going to go to the top of the screen, just put this away down there and say define show. Okay, you know, I did that. I've shown you this process before. So basically, I'm just going to call the name of the entry field. And our entry field here, where I want this to work on, is going to be my password entry. So the password, I'm just going to call the password entry. Okay, dot configure. So I'm going to configure it under this check button. And I want a situation where this, I want a situation where this is going to show on the is going to show on this password entry. So I've configured that. The next is to configure my check button, and the variable for that is check. Okay, look at it down here. So that's the variable holding this value. So now I'm going to say check dot configure, right? And then I'm just simply going to give a command. Oh, goodness. I'm going to give a command to this. The reason is so that while I define this one, once you click on hide, this one shows, and when you click on this one, the hide shows. So that's basically both of them working hand in hand. They're working in opposite direction. So while this one is working, this other one is doing this other thing. That's how this just gonna work. And I'm just not gonna give a text to this, but you have to include something here. Okay, so now is to configure us to define this hide button here. So now that is done, I'm going to configure that to work on my password entry. I'm going to say configure password entry.configure, and I want nothing to show once I click on that this hide button. Okay, and then for the check dot configure, and give a command to this, and this is just going to be my show, and the text is just going to be absolutely nothing. So now I explained this earlier. So this show and hide basically go hand in hand. So it means that if I click on hide, this show command comes up, then this is going to show by basically hiding your data on the entry field. Okay, and when I click on hide, this is what is going to show. Okay, so that is basically revealing what is already being typed on the entry field. So that is why I'm doing this in opposite direction. That is just basically how this our check button works. You just have to configure it to work this way. All right. Okay, so the next thing we're going to be working on is going to be our, let me give a name, comment. So this is check button configuration. The next is going to be our event binding, right? I'm going to show you that, and I'm going to explain event/binding. Okay. All right, so let me show you how this is. Okay, now, so we can see on the screen. All right, so we have our check button working already. Sorry, this is already from the previous. Let me run this one so that we can see that our check button is, let's see, type something here. Okay, it's hidden. So if I want to reveal it, I'll click on this. Okay, so now I've clicked on the button, which is hide, and now my show, it has shown this on the screen. So if I click on this back, which is to unhide it, this is going to be revealed. You can see that. Click on hide, it shows me this, it's going to hide everything, and if I want to reveal it, it's revealed. All right, so that is done here. Okay, so this is not where we were. Let me show you what I want to show you here. So you can look over here. Now you can see on our entry field, we have these variables. We have this string of information on our entry field. So these are events slash binding. That's how I'm going to call it, event slash binding. So I'm basically going to give an event to this purpose. So that is to focus on this entry field. Okay, so that is what I'm going to show you now. Okay, so first of all, let me just give a little explanation. So a Tkinter application spends most of its time inside an event loop. Okay, so it spends most of its time inside an event loop. and via the main loop method. Okay, so this is just outside our event loop here. Okay, so events can come from various sources, like including a key press like this. Okay, and mouse operation, key press, mouse operations like this as well. Okay, and this is just done by the user. And we draw events from the window manager, indirectly caused by the user in many cases. So Tkinter has provided a powerful mechanism to let us deal with events ourselves. For each widget, we can bind Python functions and methods to events. Okay, so we can decide to add an event, bind this, and add an event to it, just like what I'm doing here. So when this is focused on here, I want an event to take place. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to attach a widget to this entry field. So that is using our bind widget. Okay, so that is what I'm going to do. And I want a situation where when my mouse is clicked on this place, the string of information goes away. And when it's focused on this, the string of information comes up. So you can see how this is working like this. So this is what is called event binding. All right. So how to do this? Well, let's just get started. Let's start with that. All right. So we will have to, before we start, we will have to core the name of our, okay. All right. So before we do that, we will have to go and include that on our screen over here. Okay. So let me put this over. Wait, let's see. We have this here. Okay, well, I can just decide to put this. So I'm just going to say event binding. Okay. For the other one I wrote is going to be the functionalities of that. So now I'm going to call the name of the enter field that I want this event to work out, and then I'm going to use my bind widget and then give an event to it, and then I'm going to use a handler to give a function to that event. So this is how it works. The name of the event where I want this to work is going to be on my email entry field and my password entry field. So I'm going to start with my email entry field. So I'm going to say email entry dot. Okay, before I do that, there's something that I will need to include here. So now you can see we have a string of information here. So this is basically to indicate to a user that this entry field, the purpose of this entry field is just to enter your email. Same thing goes to this place for your password. So before I start with the event binding, I have to ensure that that string of information is going to be on my GUI. Okay, there it is. So leaving this information here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to call the name of the entry field dot insert. Okay, so basically I want my information to start from the beginning of the screen, and the string of information that I want to be there is going to be, I'm going to call it at email.com. So that is the format for that. Okay, so that is it, and I'm going to do the same for my password entry. So I'm going to call my password entry dot insert, and this is going to be the string of information is going to start from the beginning of the screen, and this is going to be a password. All right, so let me run this so we can see. Okay, so now we have our at email and password. So that's basically giving an information, a string of information or indication to a user. Okay, so you have to use the insert widget to enable a user see the purpose of this entry field. Okay, so for the next is to, let me get this away. So let me call this let's say indication. string of information. String of information. Okay, so now let's proceed to the event binding. Okay, event slash binding. Okay, so we will have to start by calling the name of the entry field we want this event to take place. I'm going to start with my email entry and I'm going to bind it. I'm going to use the bind widget. And this is going to, I'm just going to call it a name, focus in. So whenever my cursor is focused on that entry field, something has to happen. So I'm going to give the next one, I'm going to give a handler a name. So this is just a handler to handle this information. And the name of the handler, I'm just going to call it on focus email in. Okay, so you can decide to call it whichever name you want. Okay, so I'm going to have an error here because I will need to define this handler. Okay, so for this focus email in, it means that when I focus on that particular entry field, something has to happen. And we're going to include a focus out as well. When it's focused in, something has to happen. When it's focused out, something has to happen. So these are events that needs to take place in this process. Okay, so I'm still going to call the name of my entry field, which is the email entry, the bind. Okay, and I'm just going to say focus out. And then I'm going to give a handler name. I'm going to call it on underscore focus email, email out. Okay, so now let's go and work on that. So we're going to define this up here. Okay, so let me copy this here. Copy this, take it up here, and then I'm going to define that handler. I'm going to say define this, and because it's an event, you have to include it here. You have to parse that as an argument. So our definition has to understand that that is an event that we're trying to define. All right, so you can see our error is gone because now we want to start our definition. So ensure that you include this event to this definition so that it would understand that is an event. You can decide to write a full event, or you can decide to just leave it an E. So it's still going to understand that. Okay, so let me just leave this an event because we're all still beginners here. Okay, so after this is done, I want a situation where once my cursor is focused on the entry field, the string of information deletes. Now watch this. You can see. So when my mouse is focused on the screen, on the entry field, the string of information deletes. And now I can simply type in my input, give my inputs there. So that's what I'm going to work on now. So I'm going to start by calling the name of the entry field. As usual, I'm going to say email dot delete, and this is going to start from the beginning to the end of the screen. Okay, so let me run this. Let's see. What did I put here? Okay, because I haven't defined my focus out, so we're having an error. Okay, so let me just define that so that we do not have, or I'm going to comment this out first since we're working on focusing. Okay, so let me run this. All right, so you can see. So this line of code basically means that when my cursor is focused on this particular entry field, which is our email entry, this string of information deletes. Okay, let's see. Okay, so let me finish up with this line of code first. Okay, so after that is done, I'm still going to define for the focus out. Okay, I'm going to define this on, let's see, let me put this. Okay, but the next one is out, and yep, this is an event. Okay, and so now I'm going to this is what I'm going to do. Okay, I think the reason why I have that problem is because I have not given a focus out to that yet. So this is how this is going to work now. So on the focus out, this is what's going to happen. I want a situation that that entry field, once it's click on, I want a certain image or a certain text or a certain string to show on it. Okay, so I'm just gonna call the name of my entry field as a entry field dot get, because it's basically going to get information that, and then I'm going to put this in a variable holder. I'm going to say name. So this is the variable that I'm going to work with. So I want a situation that if that name, which is our email entry field, is equal to nothing at all, then that email entry dot, I want certain thing to be inserted on that email entry, and it's going to start from the beginning, and what I want to be placed there is going to be an email. So let me put this in caps so that we can see the difference, what I'm working on. Okay, so let's run this. Okay, still not getting why I was having this error. Okay, so let me see. Okay, I would work on the password. Actually, everything is running fine. There isn't any error, but the functionality of the event isn't showing what I'm supposed to see yet. But let me proceed to define our, okay, our, this was not done. Okay, that's because this is out. Okay, so this place we're gonna have this. All right, so I think that was the issue. This was out of place. It wasn't reaching that line of code. Okay, so let me run this. See, okay, still not getting why we're having the error. Um, all right, so let me see. Okay, so I think I know where the error is coming from. So here I'm supposed to use this my greater sign, less than and greater than. I think that's what I didn't include here. Okay, so let me go back and run this. Let's see. All right, so that is working, but we've not configured this to work that way. Okay, so now you can see the difference. We have our email over here. Okay, so for the first one is whenever my GUI comes up, I want a string of information to be left on it, indicating that this is an email, which is what we did here at email.com. But when my cursor is focused on it and is focused out, this is what I wanted to do. When it's focused in, this string of information deletes, this indication goes out. And when it's focused out, this email comes up. You can see I had to make it in capital letters so you can see the difference. All right, so let's do that again. All right, so you can see that. So next is to work on our password. All right, so let's go down. I'm just simply going to copy this, and paste it over here. And then I'm going to change this to password. Okay, sorry, this is going to be password entry. Okay, that is out. Okay, and this is going to be what name do I use? I'm going to say on focus, password in focus password out. No, sorry, this is where it's going to be. Focus in, focus password in, and password, all this password in and password out. So let me copy this and go and define the handler. Okay, so I'm going to say define that handler, and we have to ensure that we use our event so that the definition will understand that truly that is an event that should take place somewhere. Okay, and so now I want the situation where my password, okay, we're having indentation. Okay, so that is out. There might be error because I have not. I think this should be it. Okay, so let me just include this first. Okay, these are soft errors. They're not really a serious something. So this is password, and the next thing we're going to do is supposed to be an indentation here, and I'm going to call the name of my password. It's supposed to be indentation. I'm going to say password entry dot delete. So I want a situation when I put my cursor on that, when I click on that entry field, I want the string of information to be deleted. So this is where I'm going to call the name of my entry field dot delete, and it has to delete from the beginning to the end of the string. Okay. All right. So the next is to work on this other functionality here, which is our second handler. Okay, so I'm going to define the second handler and say, call it an event as well, and then I'm going to say password entry dot, oh no, sorry, I'm going to say yes, a password entry dot get. Okay, and we're going to put this in a variable name and call it a password. So we're going to work with that password name. And then we're going to say if this password, okay, is equal to empty string, space, and empty line, then that password entry, okay, we should get an information, we should leave a message, or we should get a string of information that was going to say password. So let me leave this in capital letters so we can still see the difference. Okay, so that is it. And I'm going to run this now. This is going to work now. All right, so like I said, when you put on your screen, this is the first thing you get. You're going to get a string of information, which is this line of code here. And on our focus, which is this one, on our focus, which is this function we have given to this, we want a situation that when our mouse is focused on the entry field, every string of information deletes, and when it's focused out, that happens. Same thing goes here what I've just done here. When our mouse is focused on this entry field, every string of information goes out, and this pops up, and this pops up, and this. So when my mouse is now focused here, this password is going to pop up here. You can see that. Okay, so this is what we're going to be getting, our leftover string of information. Okay, so that is just the difference. I just had to make this in bold so that we can see the difference, but I can still go back and just reduce this, make this in smaller letter. Okay, let me change this back to small letter. All right, so this is just for your basic understanding. This is password. Okay, so I hope that was properly understood. So the next thing we're going to be working on this screen is going to be our, let's see. Okay, the next thing I want us to work on is going to be on this our, Okay, I haven't given a function to this yet. Okay, so let's give a function to this our let's see, don't have an account. Okay, so this is going to be the next. Okay, don't have an account as a label, so let's give a direction of this create new account, which is this our former GUI we did. So what we're going to do, we're going to direct this to our this GUI because this is where it's going to take us to. Okay, you know, from the previous one, let me show you. This is the previous one. When you click on this button, this comes up. Okay, then when you go back, that takes you to the other screen. So this is what we're going to work on now. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go to the GUI, the button. So there it is, and I'm just simply going to give a command. Oh my goodness. So I'm just going to give a command here. Call it call it no what do I call it? Create a new one. How does that work? Let's see. Okay, so let me create new account. I'm gonna say new one. Okay, so after that is done, I'm just going to go to the top of the screen and define that. Okay, let's see, I'm going to say create, sorry, I'm going to define that button and say create, where is it? Okay, new one. Just going to copy this. I'm just going to copy this and define the purpose of that. Just paste this here and this. So I want situation when I click on my create one button, which is this one, it takes me directly to this other window. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to call the name of this current window. I'm going to use a widget to destroy it. So basically taking down the window and importing the next window that is going to be attached to it. So that's it. So I'm going to say windows.destroy. And then after that window has been destroyed, I want a situation where the next window is going to be imported. And the name of my next window is this particular registration form. Okay, so let's do that. Press this and run it. So let's see. I'm going to click on this button and this pops up. Ta 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 ta. All right, so we are there. So next thing is for us to work on this button. So this button is not functioning properly. So the basic function of this button is take us back to our login screen. Okay, so let's go back to the code for this GUI. So I'm just going to take this out. This is it here, and let me take this away, and then we'll go straight to the button and give a command there. So where is it? This is it, back button here, and I'm going to say command. I'm going to give a command to that. And then I'm going to say back. So just basically going to go up here. I have lots of other codes here. So I'm going to define that button. I'm going to say back. So I want a situation, this particular window is destroyed when that is clicked on it, and then it's going to import my login screen. Okay, so let me run this. This takes me here. So we are right on track. Okay, so what do we have to work in next? So for the next stage is to work on our database. Okay, I hope we're ready for this. Okay, so for database, let us start with that. We're going to go over here. So I'm going to call the section database. All right, so we will have to go down to our login button. So this is where everything works, and we want our login button to do all of this function to take all of the information. It's going to search for, it's an email and password entry. So basically what we want our login button to do is to, after our email and our password has already been registered with the previous GUI, after that is done, we expect our email entry and our password and email information that's been registered to be able to, we want this login to be able to access our database to check if those email entry and password are registered in the database. If it is, then it should recognize it and be able to give us a freeway or an access to the management system. I hope that is understood. Okay, so let us start with that. We'll start by giving a command button to this. I'm going to say command, and I'm going to call this login. Okay, so then we go to the top of the screen and define our login. Okay, so now let's start with our database. So now we want a situation that if my entry fields are not entered, find sure what happened. Indentation, where we're having a problem with indentation here. Let's see where we have it. So I think because we need to, let's see that. We need to properly define this. Okay, so let me just start with the code. Okay, problem is with indentation because I haven't put anything and it's not going to test it yet. Okay, so let me just start with this. So one situation that if all of the entry fields are not properly entered, we should get an alert. We should get a message that these entry fields are not entered. Okay, so that's what we're going to start with by validation of our entry fields. Okay, so I'm going to start by saying if email entry dot get. Okay, if that is empty, then we should get a message. All right, so we have going to have an issue here because our message box has not been. We need to import our message box over here. So I'm just going to go over here and say from Tkinter import message box. All right, so after that is done, I can now go on with my message box, and I'm going to say message box. So we're going to get a message box here, and then it's going to show me an error that entry field must be entered. So I'm going to just say alert for the first, and then I'll say please. The first is our entry field, so I'm going to say please enter your email. Okay, the first is our email field. Okay, so if that is not done, then else, let me give this a space, else if our password entry that get is equals to empty, then we should as well get a message giving us an error that start by alerting us that please enter your password. Okay, so if all of this are false, then we should connect to the database. All right, so if you look closely from the previous one, we already created our database. So this other one has to connect to this database. And the name of our database here is this personal registration form. Okay, so what we're going to do is to call in this line of code over there. So I can simply just copy this. Let's see, let me copy this properly. No. Sorry. I'm just going to copy this line of code. And I'm just going to go over here. And I'm going to start with else. So if all of these are false, then we should connect to our database. Put this here. Okay, so we're having an error because I have not imported my PyMySQL. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to simply go up here and say import PyMySQL. There it is, and the error is gone. Okay, so now that is done, I will have to, okay, so this is this, and all of that is done. And the next is to call my cursor. If this is my cursor, I should do this. Okay, and then just to execute that line of code. All right, so for the next stage is to query the database. Okay, so let's go back to our database, right? So this is our database here. There's a link on this video that would show you how to download and install MySQL. So after that is installed, you're going to use this command line client in order to access the database. Okay, so after you have opened my command line client, you just simply put in the code, your password, which is this one. They used to download and install your MySQL. So mine is just 1234. Just going to simply hit enter key. And then I want to see all of the databases that are existing in my system. I'm going to say show databases. Okay. All right. So these are the list of the databases that I have on my system. And the one that I'm looking for is this one. So this is what I'm working with. And it's here. So I'm just simply going to query the database and say use personal registration underscore form, and that is changed. And now I want this to show me all of the tables. Okay, I hope we are using the right one. Okay, yes we are. Okay, and then I'm going to select or so this is basically all of the data that are in this table. Okay, so I'm going to say select or from the name of the table, which is P details, which means personal details. Okay, so this is what we have previously. So you can decide to register more people's information, and then you can use that to access the login screen. Okay, so that is just it. Let me just put this down first. So now you can see the line of code that I used to get the information from this place, from this database. I use select this from this, and this is the name of the table. So that is what I'm going to work on here. So I'm going to query the database. I'm going to say query, and I'm going to say select all from P details, which is the name of the table, where password is equal to whatever input you give to that. Is going to search from that table. It's going to go directly to this database, check in this table where that particular password is located. So let's say this is the password. So it's going to go to the name of this database, which is we're already logged in, and then check this table and then check where this password, if it does exist here. Okay, so that's basically this line of code here. It's going to query the database. And after that is done, we want this query to be executed. This is where we're going to use an execute. Okay, and then we're going to call the query, which is the variable holder for this line of query. And then we're going to call in the field that we want the database to query. So this, we're working with our password entry field, which is going to be what we will get from that password entry. And that's why I'm using our password.get. Okay, so after this is done, we want a situation where the database then goes to fetch in that piece of information. Okay, so we are going to make use of a fetch function. So basically, a fetch function is a query or a function that is already defined in PyMySQL, okay, to fetch data in a row. All right, so that's basically what it is. So now I'm going to make use of that fetch function. But before I do that, I will have to ensure I use the name of the query that I use for the database here. So I'm going to say cursor.fetch1. So this is just going to fetch that one piece of information that we're searching for to ensure that truly it exists in that database. And then I'm just going to put this in a variable. So since we're searching for a row, I'm just going to give this a row variable. And after that is done, we want a situation that if that row, okay, if that row does not exist, is equals to none. If it doesn't exist, then we should get a message giving us an error that, okay, so it's an alert. This is going to give us an error that we're having an incorrect email or password. All right, and then you'll have to return back to ensure you impute the correct information. But after that, if that is done, if all of that is false, if the information is correct and all of that, then we should get to the next stage. Else is basically the last thing to do, the basic thing you wanted to do. Else we should get a message giving us an information that truly our login is going to be successful. I'm going to say login successful. Okay. All right, so let's run this line of code, but let's see what we have here. Okay, so let's work with Pascal. So the first piece of information we have here, so let me run this code, this, and I'm going to work with what's the name, the email we have here. What we have here is pascal@email.com and the password is 1234. Okay, so let's work with this one, pascal@email.com. So I'm going to say Pascal, pascal@email.com, and the password given here is 1234. Okay, so let's see. All right, so that was successful. Great job, guys. All right, so that is successful. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to ensure that after a successful login, I will ensure that all of my entry fields are going to be deleted automatically. Okay, so we all know how to do that. So after a successful let's also have another information here. So I'm going to give another message box telling us we are welcome to that management system. So this is going to be, just going to leave this empty and say you are welcome. Okay, so let's do this again, and we'll say pascal@email.com, pascal@email. and then the password is 1234. Login successful. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, so for the next thing is to ensure that all of the entry fields are properly deleted after a successful registration. So this is basically to clear the entry field. So I'm going to give comments and say clear entry fields. You know how we do it. We're simply going to call the name of the entry field dot delete, and then it's simply going to delete from the end of the screen, from the beginning to the end of the screen. Uh-oh, sorry guys, sorry, it's too fast. Okay, and then I'm going to delete from the beginning to the end of the screen and close my bracket, my parenthesis, and password entry, the same thing. So we're going to delete from the beginning to the end of the screen. Okay, so after that is done, let's try this again. Run this and we'll say Pascal at email.com. And the password is 1234. Enter this, login, welcome, and the screen goes off immediately. All right, so that worked. And then the last stage, the last but not the least, is to, after all of that is done, we want to be taken straight to our management system because now our email and password are successful. Okay, so what we're going to do is to ensure that we destroy this current window and import that management system, just like how we did it for the other buttons. So we're going to say windows dot destroy. Sorry, let's destroy, and then we're going to import. Okay, so I already have a created GUI for this management system. So I'm simply going to use the name here. I'm going to say management system. So let me show you this management system. Okay, so this is the GUI. You can just quickly create this short GUI. All right, so now I'm going back to this screen. So now this is going to import this management system. Right, so let's run this one more time. And we'll say Pascal at email.com. And the password is 1234. We'll say login. Password. And our screen is coming up. And so there it is. Okay, guys, thank you very much. So now we have come to the end of creating this GUI. For the next stage, what we're going to work on is going to be our forgot GUI. Okay, which is the next one we're going to be working on. So thank you very much, guys. Okay, guys, so thank you very much for this opportunity to showcase and explain to you how some of these GUIs are being created. I hope you understood every process from the beginning. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Do not forget to leave comments as well. I will always reach out to you. I'll always reply and give you solutions to some of the issues that I think maybe you might encounter. So please do not forget to spread the news, spread the word, spread everything you could around. Thank you very much for this wonderful section. And we hope to see you next time. Okay, so let's just do just a little rundown of what we did today. Okay, so in the beginning, we started by creating the GUI, which is the window, and these are the other parts of the window. So we have the frame and the logo image and the entry fields and the labels and all of the buttons. We have our check button as well, and we worked on our binding and events and the string of information. Okay, so all of that are being displayed on just this GUI. Yeah, it looks small, but it has a lot of features. And we worked on our configuration of our check button and the handler that is giving us a function to our event. So that is worked on. And then our database, basically going to check for a certain piece of information, if truly that information do exist in that database. If it does, then you can log in and gain access to the main management system. So I hope this was properly understood. So thank you very much, guys, and like I said, do not forget to subscribe and like my videos. Thanks, guys, and see you next time. Bye bye.